Hello, you're watching ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the southeast this Wednesday evening. A summer of strike action continues after another walkout on the railways over pay. Some towns have a skeleton service, others none at all.
I'm going to work. I'm an NHS doctor, so I can't just sit home. But yeah, it's kind of, well, I do understand, appreciate what the strike is about.
Southern Water offers compensation in money for good causes after people on the Isle of Sheppey were left without water for days in the hottest period on record.
How the rise in Asian hornet sightings, including in Ashford and Dungeness, could have a devastating effect on the environment.
Good evening. A second round of strike action has caused severe disruption to rail services across the southeast.
In Kent, South Eastern ran just 1 in 5 trains. In Sussex, GTR, running Southern and Thameslink, said very few services were running. And a similar picture for commuters across Essex.
Further strike dates have now been announced by rail unions, as John Ryle reports.
The morning rush hour at Dartford, one of just 3 major stations operating today in Kent. Many of these commuters heading to NHS jobs in London.
I'm going to work. I'm an NHS doctor, so I can't just sit home. But yeah, it's kind of, well, I do understand, appreciate what the strike is about.
It's a little bit inconvenient, but what can you do?
My train is in 3 minutes, straight journey, no issues. And whoever needs to strike needs to strike.
South Eastern said today's strike action hit 80% of its services.
Today we're operating from 44 of our 180 stations, so that's about 1 in 4, on 3 main routes from here in Sevenoaks, from Ashford and from Dartford. Ashford goes into St Pancras, the other 2 go into London Bridge. We're hoping that everybody who has an essential journey is able to travel today, bearing in mind that things close down much earlier. So the last train is typically about 5:30.
Asked about the prospects of reaching a deal, the leader of the RMT said there was a big gap to bridge.
And we've told the company that we will implement their new technology programme, all the new techniques that they want to use. The problem is that they want to cut thousands of jobs. They want to cut back on the safety inspections by half. We think that is the recipe for an unsafe railway and an unacceptable risk in our industry. They want to change our members' work-life balance, so they work a much stronger diet of night work and weekend work. And of course the pay offer that they've made does not meet the cost of living crisis that our members, like many other workers in Britain, are facing.
Network Rail called for the current offer from rail bosses, including an 8% pay rise over 2 years, to be put to union members.
We believe we've got a good deal and it's a fair deal, and that's why my message to the RMT is put that deal to a vote of my staff so they get a chance to decide. We live in a democracy, let them decide whether or not it's actually a good and fair deal.
Tonight, no sign of a breakthrough anytime soon, and new strike dates announced that would mean major disruption once again across the southeast.
Well, let's get more from John, who's at Sevenoaks Railway Station for us this evening. John, I guess a struggle for many to get into London today, and also a struggle presumably for them to get back as well.
Yes, Matt, the last train's out of London 5:30 p.m, so there will have been a big scramble for those, and they're going to be extremely busy. Now tonight, South Eastern are warning of considerable knock-on disruption tomorrow, with, among other things, the first trains tomorrow won't be running until about 7:30 a.m. ASLEF, the train drivers union, is due to strike on Saturday, so that will mean no trains in our region on Saturday, and they've just announced a further strike day on August the 13th. And the RMT has announced 2 new strike days, August the 18th and August the 20th. So unless this deadlock is broken, a number of more challenging days lie ahead.
OK, John, for the time being, thank you very much indeed.
Today is the final day for the public to have its say on the latest plans to bring Gatwick Airport's northern runway into regular use. It says it will create more than 18,000 new jobs, but environmental groups say the expansion would have a devastating impact on quality of life in the southeast. The latest consultation closes at midnight tonight.
More work is needed to improve West Sussex Fire and Rescue Service. An inspection found it had improved, but there are still areas needing attention, including looking after people. The service says it recognises there's still work to be done, which it's addressing as a matter of priority. Meanwhile, the report found Essex County's fire service needs to continue working to improve, although it's performing well in some areas.
Two dads from Sussex are preparing to climb Mount Kilimanjaro to raise money for a cancer charity. David Platten and Paul Terry will tackle more than 5,000 metres in memory of their friend's son Harry, who died at the age of 6 from leukaemia.
Southern Water says homes and businesses on the Isle of Sheppey will get compensation after a burst water main cut supplies for 3 days. The company, which faced criticism because of the major leak, has also set up a community fund.
It's asking people there to nominate charities, community and volunteer groups to receive money from the scheme. Tom Savides has more.
Water from the tap had stopped flowing, but community spirit certainly hadn't. A burst water main leading to the Isle of Sheppey ruptured earlier this month, cutting supplies for 3 days. The Working Men's Club in Minster allowed Southern Water to use their premises as a water distribution point. Many of those who work here rolled up their sleeves to help out.
We're such a lovely island. I think the community just sort of like offer their help no matter what. And as a club, obviously, we opened it up for all the staff of Southern Water and everyone else to use. So it's sort of like pulled us all together as well.
Southern Water came under intense criticism for a major leak during a heat wave. They've promised that customers affected by it will get a credit added to their bills as compensation. And they've set up a community fund for people to nominate charities and volunteer groups working in the community.
We know that it's the residents of the Isle of Sheppey who will understand best where our funds can make the most difference. Those nominations are due to close on Monday the 1st of August, so get them in quickly.
Up to 40,000 homes and businesses were affected on the Isle of Sheppey for up to 3 days. Water may have been lacking, but community spirit certainly wasn't. The charity Curley's Farm in Laysdown took in thousands of litres of water, and not just for their animals. They shared that delivery with the local community, supplying water to people on their doorsteps.
The staff completed their duties on the farm, and then we knocked on 300 doors in our local community, just making sure that everybody that should have got water did have water.
The Met Office says England has had its driest July since 1911. The Environment Agency is urging people to use water wisely, with the country facing a drought in August.
Most of England has already moved into what we term prolonged dry weather status, and this is the first stage of a drought. Now, there is no single definition of drought, and my advice is don't wait for it to happen.
Water supplies may be back on the Isle of Sheppey, but restrictions in England could be around the corner if this hot dry spell continues into August. Tom Savides, ITV News.
Well, after experiencing those scorching weather conditions this time last week, campaigners are calling on local authorities and businesses to increase the accessibility of drinking water across the region.
Yes, they say more water fountains could help prevent millions of single-use plastic bottles from polluting our streets by making it easier for people to fill up on the go. Manifa Bob Simon has more.
Nestled around wildflowers and bushes is a fountain that's been providing people with free drinking water since 2019. It was installed in conjunction with the Refill campaign, which works to reduce plastic waste by encouraging people to carry reusable bottles. And during the summer months, there's been no shortage of people wanting water on the go.
Single-use plastic bottles are some of the most commonly found plastic items in our rivers, on our beaches and in our oceans. What the Refill campaign enables people to do is it means that they don't need to go and buy these single-use plastic water bottles, but instead they can find somewhere to refill their water bottle time and time again, so they can stay safe, stay hydrated and crucially avoid that single-use plastic.
This water station outside Hove Town Hall was put in place 3 months ago. People here have been making the most of having accessible drinking water at their fingertips.
I think, yeah, it's really important to reinstate water fountains. I think access to free water is, like, important for everyone, like, in terms of, like, just being out and about. Also, like, people who are homeless, kids, and also just, like, I think seeing water around makes you drink more water, which can only be good for more people, right? So, yeah.
Really important, obviously, for the environment. It's important to, save plastic waste.
Very important. If you don't have a water fountain, you can't refill your reusable bottle like what everybody else has. My dog can't have a drink either. So yeah, they're very important to everyday life.
The scheme has also been backed by businesses across the country that have pledged to save on plastic by offering drinking water for free.
Initially we used to stock bottled water, and then we thought, actually, we have this amazing filtered water, and why not offer that to everybody? And we're part of this scheme which allows people to come in. They don't have to buy anything from us. They have a bottle or a container to fill it up with water, and we're happy to do that.
Campaigners from Greenpeace hope their message on increasing sustainability will continue to flow in the right direction.
8 billion bottles and containers were dumped in our rivers and seas and in landfill in 2019. That's just a staggering amount. What we really need to do is move away from our disposable culture where packaging is used once and then thrown away. Over 100,000 marine animals and over a million seabirds die every year because of plastic pollution. And plastic also threatens many other species that are already under pressure from warming seas.
And as their drive to swap plastic bottles for ones that are reusable continues, there could be more water stations popping up near you in the future. Monifa Bob Simon, ITV News.
The family of Archie Battersby have been denied permission to take their case to the UN after their case was refused by the Court of Appeal. The parents of a 12-year-old boy from Southend has been at the centre of a court battle over his life support treatment after he suffered brain damage in an accident 3 months ago. Archie's family say they will now apply to the Supreme Court to pave their way to a UN hearing.
A cost of living emergency has been declared by Worthing Borough Council. It estimates that 12,000 people in the borough can't afford to feed themselves and says it's working on an urgent action plan to support them.
A former Marine who became a para-athlete has been honoured by the University of Brighton. Joe Townsend lost both of his legs while serving in Afghanistan in 2008. He went on to win 2 gold medals in the Commonwealth and Invictus Games. He'll receive an honorary degree as a Doctor of Science for his major contribution to sport and sports science.
You're watching ITV News here in the Meridian region. Thank you so much for watching us. Coming up, the truth about the invasive species making their way over to Kent in the southeast and the sting in the tail of the new arrivals.
And did you watch the match last night? A new footballing hero for a new generation.
Just brilliant. And you can find more on today's top stories from right across the southeast by going to our website. Just head to itv.com/Meridian. You can call us on 0808 1010 095 and follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.
Now, invasive species in the UK in the form of non-native plants, animals and insects are costing the country an estimated £2 billion a year, according to wildlife groups. Some experts fear that that bill will rise in the future as climate change means our environment becomes increasingly attractive to creatures from other countries.
Well, Asian hornets were first officially spotted in the UK in 2016, mainly here in the southeast. There have been confirmed sightings in Ashford and Dungeness, but there are fears the hornets could become established with potentially devastating effects on the environment. Kevin Ashford reports.
They're a visitor here that couldn't be more unwelcome. Asian hornets prey on pollinators like honeybees. And for beekeepers like Ian White from Brighton, the prospect of the species becoming established here is alarming.
When they find a hive, they will fly around in front of the hive and actually take bees as they exit. But in the worst case is that they will overwhelm the hive and actually kill it completely. They will take so many bees away that the hive will collapse.
It's not just honeybees that will be under threat from Asian hornets, as they'll happily eat other insects too.
They'll take our butterflies, our bumblebees, our little solitary bees, the hoverflies. All of those are part of their diet, and they're opportunities. They'll take what is there. If they remove our pollinators, they will have a major impact on our fruit farming industry, particularly.
And it's not just food production that could be hit by an influx of Asian hornets. Wildlife groups fear the environment as a whole would suffer.
We're in the middle of a nature and climate crisis. Our insect populations are under massive threat. You know, as much as half, 50% of our insect populations have disappeared. And across the globe, it's, over half the insects are actually threatened with extinction. And we rely on insects for the functioning of our whole ecosystems. It's not just food, and pollination. It's pollination of all those other plants, and insects provide food for all the other wildlife that we love and depend upon. So any additional pressure on those already threatened insect populations is something we do need to take account of.
The number of confirmed sightings of Asian hornets in this country is relatively small. The latest government figures put the total at just 22 since 2016, with 12 nests destroyed. But the worry is that Asian hornets could get established here and spread rapidly. The first European sighting of the hornets was here in France, where the bee population has suffered as the hornets have spread. It's thought they were brought in via a shipping container from China. There are also regular sightings in the Channel Islands, where experts like John de Catteray have appealed to members of the public to be on the lookout for the creatures' nests.
The advice I would give them is to go in and look up, and it may not be in their garage, but it could be under any sheltered lean-to, and they'll have a brown ball. At this time of the season, they're probably grapefruit sized, and if it's active, it will have flying insects, and those insects will be dark, looking like wasps, but with an orange face and yellow legs, and that identifies them as Asian hornets.
And vigilance is seen as a key weapon in keeping numbers down in this country, with the public being urged to report any sightings of Asian hornets via a dedicated app. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
And the ITV Evening News continues with the national and international news at 6:30. Here's Mary Nightingale.
Coming up on the programme, for England's football heroes, Wembley awaits. After their stunning win over Sweden, the Lionesses are preparing for their first Euros final in 14 years. Tonight they'll find out who they'll be playing. Also ahead tonight, the summer of strikes continues as rail bosses admit they don't know how long the action will go on for. At 7 tonight, a special report on the staffing crisis in the NHS as we film ambulances queuing for hours outside hospitals. And my McDonald's have put up the price of their cheeseburgers for the first time in more than a decade. Will you join me for those stories and much more, of course, at 6:30.
Well, let's get more on that ambulance story now and look ahead to tomorrow on ITV. And the Tonight programme investigates the deepening crisis in the NHS as delayed ambulances and overcrowded A&Es are linked to thousands of deaths.
Taking hours rather than minutes, presenter Paul Brand gains exclusive access to the front line and meets the families who claim the blue light arrived too late in their hour of need.
We'll be speaking to Paul about the investigation in just a moment. But first, here's a look at what's coming up on tomorrow's programme.
Once they're taken off the back of an ambulance, this is the next queue that the patients join. They're lined up not just along this corridor, but all down this one too. Hugh, how long have you been on this trolley for?
I've been on there since yesterday, last night 7 o'clock.
Last night 7 o'clock, and it's about 10 o'clock in the morning now?
Yes.
Just in this corridor?
No, I've been round the corner. I've not seen a doctor yet.
Do you know what's wrong with you?
I've got water on my lungs and water around my heart. But they're doing their best, bless them.
Well, let's talk to presenter Paul Brand. And Paul, it must have been difficult meeting families so badly affected by these ambulance delays.
And essentially what we saw is an ambulance service experiencing its own emergency, record delays. People used to be able to expect an ambulance within 18 minutes in most of the most serious cases. Now that can be hours that people are left waiting, and sadly that is ultimately, in some cases, we believe, proving deadly. And we're all used to waiting for a GP appointment or for a hospital appointment, but I think ambulances are the one service that most of us still take for granted are going to arrive on time, and yet in thousands upon thousands of cases that is not happening. And we saw for ourselves partly why, because the NHS wanted to explain to us what's happening here. And inside one A&E department that we went to, there were 19 patients on trolleys all waiting just to get inside the A&E department because the hospital was full, and that means paramedics can't leave the patients and go out on other calls. They have to stay with them.
And important to remember that the ambulance workers themselves are also really feeling the pressure.
Yeah, we did a survey actually of 2,300 ambulance workers with the GMB union, and we found that of the vast majority feel they're experiencing unacceptable stress, and 85% feel that the delays that they're experiencing are contributing to poor outcomes for patients. In fact, 35% say that they have seen, they believe, delays contributing to deaths, and so perhaps it's no wonder that about 3/4 of ambulance staff are considering leaving the profession at a time when their skills could not be in shorter supply.
And what are the government saying about the delays?
The government say they put £3.3 billion in since 2010 to help hospitals deal with demand. They say they put £20 million into ambulance services just this year alone. But you won't hear the leadership candidates vying to be our next Prime Minister discuss the NHS in any great detail right now. And I think that is going to be a big concern to many in the NHS. They want to hear talk of increasing investment rather than all this talk of cutting taxes.
OK, Paul, we have to leave it there, but thank you very much indeed for talking to us.
And remember, you can watch the full Tonight programme with Paul Brand, 999 A National Emergency, tomorrow night on ITV from 8:30.
Now, Kent has a new footballing hero as Alessia Russo helped England to reach the Women's Euros final last night.
Yes, her backheel goal won over plenty of fans in her hometown of Maidstone that could see her be given the freedom of the borough.
Well, now all eyes are on Alessia and the team to see if the Lionesses can make history this Sunday, so no pressure. Jo Coshen has the story.
Well, to be fair, I could have made it a lot easier for myself if I'd just scored the first one. But yeah, I mean, it fell nicely and I don't really remember too much about it. I just thought that it was the quickest route to get it in the back of the net.
She's been one of the standout performers this tournament, with several standout cameos as a super sub, which have won over plenty of new fans back home.
Oh my God, it's amazing. I can't believe this. I'm so glad people are finally taking women's football seriously.
I've heard all about her. She's all across the community pages on Facebook and we're all well behind her.
I really enjoyed it. I thought they played better than the men, to be fair.
Hopefully they actually win it.
No diving either.
I was there watching it. I jumped out of my chair when she scored the goal, and I think we ought to frame it and get it up in the museum and say, look at this Russo girl, how wonderful she is. She's put Maidstone on the map now, and as I say, it's so inspiring for everybody. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Well, there have been some requests to see Alessia being given freedom of the borough. Is that something you can organise?
I can ask for it, certainly. I mean, if I find the right person, I'll get some people on board. We'll certainly look at it, no problem.
There's calls now for Alessia to feature in the starting 11 as the Lionesses look to make history on Sunday. But whatever the result, her performances have already made a mark for women and young girls in Kent.
What an icon for the girls. I mean, for someone who's particularly coming from a county that may not have the best geographical setup in terms of access to RTCs and elite pathways, it shows just how achievable it is for these girls. So they really do have a relatable role model in her, and fantastic person, fantastic performances. And yeah, it just hopefully carries on into the final.
Russo has already captured the hearts of the county town where she started her footballing career. And with a goal that'll go down in international football history, there will no doubt be many people across the southeast inspired to try and recreate what's starting to be known as the Bearsted backheel. Jo Coshen, ITV News.
Joe, you don't give up the day job. Yeah,
it was better than that. Yeah.
Definitely better than that. Pip's with us now. Pip, we know because we spoke about it last week, it's been exceptionally dry. You can just look in your gardens to see just how dry.
Yeah, that's right. There are parched lawns and grass as far as the eye can see, but it's not just the grass getting in on the act, it's the trees as well. Take a look at this snap. This is from Andrew Gregory. Now, we're used to seeing leaves falling from trees in the autumn and winter. These species that drop their trees in response to drought are known as drought deciduous, and the idea is that they get rid of the leaves, they can preserve the nutrients in the tree and make the most of what little water is still available. Some autumnal scenes.
So we know that the trees and the grass are pretty thirsty for rain, but the wildlife too.
Yeah, that's right. So it's a really tough time of year for our wildlife. The ground is really hard and parched, but there are things we can do to help. Take a look at some of these hints. So first up, in your garden, as I said, the soil is really hard for the birds and hedgehogs to get to the bugs they need. If you can dig over a bit of soil, that helps to bring some of the food sources to the surface. Perhaps you could add some different sort of fruits to your usual offerings, anything like chunks of apple, really high water content, ideal for our local birds. And if you can, perhaps consider a bird bath. Doesn't need to be anything at all fancy, but having a supply of water really important for feather maintenance and also really good for providing a drinking source, not just for the birds but for our bees and butterflies and other insects as well.
On the really hot day last week, I noticed in my bird bath they were just having a dip because we all needed it
just to cool off. Yeah, we'll be joining them if it carries on. Right, let's get a check on the full forecast with the details, of course. Here's Pip.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
So lots more dry weather in the forecast over the next few days. Plenty of warm sunshine to be had, and there is just a hint of a few showers heading our way through the course of the weekend. So this is how things will unfold over the next few days. High pressure still very much in charge through tomorrow, Friday and into Saturday as well. But then we start to see some fronts making headway from the west, not amounting to very much, but they could well provide the focus for a few showers as the weekend wears on. Out there at the moment, we're looking at dry conditions through this evening and tonight. Clear spells coming in, going, light winds for most of us as well. And temperatures, well, on the comfortable side for sleeping once again. I think lows of 12 or 13 Celsius in places. And then tomorrow morning, well, a dry start, a fairly bright start, some nice sunshine here and there from the word go. And it'll change really as we head into the afternoon. Some cloud bubbling up here and there, perhaps thick enough to produce 1 or 2 light showers, but really not amounting to very much. And with a bit more sunshine around than today, it should feel just a touch warmer. Highs inland tomorrow around 23 or 24 Celsius. These are the times of high water for tomorrow. Then for Sheerness there around 1:15 in the morning and then around 1:30 in the afternoon. Beyond that, through tomorrow night and into Friday, we very much hold on to high pressure. So dry conditions overnight and a dry, bright end to the working week, and really little change as we head into Saturday. Still more in the way of dry and fine and fairly warm conditions before the increasing chance of a few showers heading our way come Sunday.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Hello, summer. Piri sponsors ITV Pollen Count.
Well, it's good news for hay fever sufferers. Grass pollen season has now just about drawn to a close. Still some weed pollen to contend with though, and levels over the next few days will remain in the moderate category. Do take care.
And that is it from us. Of course, the ITV Evening News is coming up next. With the details this evening, it's Mary Nightingale.
And I'll have your late update. That's just after 10:30. From all of us here, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.